Well, hey there, crypto friends. Thanks again for joining me. So today I have a special guest on the channel. He's from the Admix project. Please welcome Sam Huber. He's the founder, and we're going to jump into all of the details about NFT advertising and why it's actually a pretty important aspect to get a really good system and standard down for. So Sam, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, so this is something that I've actually been talking about for quite some time, is that any industry that is emerging like this, in particular in technology, standards are a pretty big springboard to get to that next level, right? There's a lot of people that are already scrambling around, trying to, kind of fill things out, figure things out, find the best way around this. But once we get a real true standard that everyone can kind of adopt and get on board with, it makes it a lot easier for us to move forward. And advertising in the metaverse and in games in particular, we really haven't really seen much of a standard for something like that. And with more of these metaverses popping up every day, where people are literally living their lives in these virtual worlds, it makes sense to have this and have a good system set up to be able to, A, make it easy for advertisers to get in, right? And then B, for people who own some of these billboards to be monetizing them just like you would if you were a property owner and someone says, hey, I want to put a giant LCD billboard on your property right by the freeway so we get all that maximum exposure. I'll give you X amount of cut. So tell us a little bit about the Admix platform and what you guys are doing here with this standard. And actually, let's start off a little bit about yourself. Like, how'd you get here?
How did I get here? That's a good question. I got here because I was building games actually. My first I was an engineer first, and then decided to quit that job and go and build games. Came to London, built a gaming venture. We were building hyper casual games, and that's where I realized how poor the experience was when it comes to advertising in games. I don't know how much mobile games you've played, but you have this very intrusive banners and rewarded videos that literally you spend more time watching ads than playing the games. And it just felt crazy to me that this was the best way to monetize a game if you own a game. And so we kind of embarked on this journey to try to embed the brand within the game itself. Like a product placement. So if you have a football game, you might have ads around the stadium like you have in the real world, or if it's a racing track, the billboards around the track are replaced with real ads. But it doesn't stop there. It's not only about banners and videos. It could be items that you can capture in the game, like a Nike pair of sneakers that make you run faster. Right. It's more about, instead of having these two layers of game and then let's put some ads on it and it looks terrible and it creates a bad experience, how can we blend the two together? And that's the technology that we have built. It's a simple integration for creators where they can basically inject branded content, banners, videos, and 3D within the content itself. And it's really a tool for them to decide how this advertising or brand experience is going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you. In particular, it's really bad with mobile games. PC games, not as much, but with mobile games, I mean, it is definitely over the top. So if you guys play any mobile games, I'm sure you already know how intrusive these things can be, because it's always like, oh, it's a free-to-play game, and it is. But you got to, like you said,
it's a click farm.
It's a click farm. You got to keep going through ads and doing all these things. And I see it on when my daughter plays some of these games too, and she's like, I got to watch another ad. I'm like, this is horrible. Like, can we just pay $5? Like at this, you get to a point where it's just like, it's so annoying. Like, I just want to get rid of these ads, and a lot of times there's not any way to even do that. So having a kind of native solution for that is easy to incorporate for developers makes a lot of sense. Now, when you say easy to incorporate, how does that actually work? So if I'm a game developer and I'm building a metaverse right now that is, we'll say, crypto enabled, I have virtual land, you can walk around with your avatar and hang out with people, there's social experiences. How do what is the actual process of incorporating that? What does that look like for a developer?
Yeah, so for traditional games, which are built on Unity or Unreal or other typical game engines, it's literally a plugin, and then it's drag and drop. So you can identify areas of your real estate that you want to monetize. For example, I want to place a banner on top of this building, or I want to place a certain items in this area. That's what we've done so far, and we have now 500 games using our technology. We have a whole platform that shows the reporting, how much money people are making, and we take care of the brand placement as well. So we have access to the whole, thousands and thousands of brands that are basically placing their brands inside those spots.
And the game developer gets to like kind of approve those, say, hey, we want to work with these ones or not work with these ones, right?
100%. That's the real beauty of it. Is like it's not plug and play in the sense that you put it on and you don't know what's happening. It's a tool, and you decide as a creator what brand do you want, where do you want them, how big it is, what is the trigger. Do you want to, if someone pays, do you want to remove the placement? Is it transparent? Like you can decide everything. It's a tool. And that's really the main difference. And when we ask our creators, what they love is that they are in control of that. And obviously they're making money from it, right? So, we don't actually consider ourselves as like as an advertising company, but more as a tool, a developer tool for creators to make money in a different way.
Right. And
of course, in traditional games, advertising is a big part of revenue if you have free to play. We believe that in the metaverse, it's although there will be plenty of other ways for creators to make money with NFTs and tokens and all of that, brands are still going to be a big part of that new creator economy because they are spending $500 billion a year in digital advertising, and they're going to want to reach that audience when that audience moves into Web3. So we rather build great tools for them to do that in the way that is 100% controlled by the creator and creates a great user experience rather than having it abused like we've seen on the current version of the internet.
No, you're right on point. So that's the reason why I kind of want to ask it, because I think that's a pretty big aspect of this is being able to have full control as the creator, being able to implement it easily, right? So, having, plugins for Unity and Unreal make complete sense, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at, like how does that work? And because people who are building these metaverse projects, they're using these game engines too, and then they're incorporating blockchain technology on the back end of it as well. So they still have the opportunity to be able to use these plugins. Now, how does that then mesh with what we're doing here in NFTs and in blockchain, where you have virtual land that's owned by multiple different owners within a metaverse, where they have maybe an option to be able to do this? How do you guys foresee that actually working with virtual land? Yeah,
so that's where there's a lot of creativity that can be applied and do things in different ways, where it's not just a boring SDK integration, but there are new ways for creators to integrate that on their land. We know that there will be millions of possible ways for creators to bring brands on their land. And our goal is to provide various of those ways, basically. And one of the ways that we've done so far as a proof of concept with a virtual world called Somnium Space, which, by the way, also invested in Admix, is NFT billboards. So it's a very, I guess, again, it's a proof of concept.
Surface level, it's the basic. It's the basic implementation. Right. You're going to start with like a sweet looking billboard. If I'm not building on my Somnium Space property, I can throw up a big giant digital billboard that's right on the main road or whatever, maybe, or by a main complex, and there you go.
Yeah, that's like first step in. So we release 15 different billboards, 3 different sizes, one every couple of days up for auction. And people that own land in Somnium could buy that, put it in their land, and then the technology is basically showing brands in this billboard. And as an owner, of course, you benefit from the ad revenue, and the commission is up to 90% for the big billboards. So, and for life. So it's a big bet. And some of those items went for about $70,000 for the billboard. So that went pretty well. And now we're doing the next step of that, which is a partnership with a big brand called Ocean Outdoor. They own real life billboards, such as Piccadilly Circus in the UK, which is kind of the Times Square of the UK. And so they have access to hundreds and hundreds of brands. And now we're going to funnel some of that real world, physical world brand revenue into the metaverse as well, and have joint campaigns between what you see in the physical world and what you see in the metaverse. So this gives the billboard even more utility, if you will, and great passive income for the owners, which is not something that every NFT project can do. So yeah, that's the state of affairs at the moment.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah, so with the NFT kind of focused concept, you guys are making the billboards themselves in NFTs, which you're then selling. Now, have you guys done any kind of estimations about ROI for something like that? So if someone's buying a billboard for, we'll say, like you said, I think $70,000 at the maximum, what kind of ROI would an owner be looking at for something like that, and does it really make it worth it in the long run if the prices are going to be so high like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? Because the amount of billboards that we release is limited. This creates a limited amount of spaces for brands to show their brands in the metaverse. So the owners, will be able to capture a big part of the budgets that is being put in the metaverse. You look at a company like Ocean Outdoor and other big partners of ours, they're selling hundreds of millions of dollars a year in ad revenue. If we put, 10% of that goes to virtual world, that's still a massive sum. And if it's divided across, even if there was 1,000 billboards out there, at the moment there's only 12, that would still be a hefty chunk for everyone, right? So it's also a way for us to guarantee that we don't want the metaverse or virtual worlds to be plastered with billboards. Obviously, that's not the goal, right? It's really about creative passive income for landowners. So by releasing a limited amount, we can kind of control that distribution and ensure that the owners actually make great return on investment.
No, that's a great point there. And that's the kind of difference we see between it being a native integration through the actual game developers, or it being something that you're offering to people who have land inside of a blockchain enabled metaverse, and that there's a kind of that juxtaposition there, right? The game developers
100%.
would be able to kind of control it themselves, but when it comes down to opening up, you can't just have a floodgate of like, okay, everyone can have as many banners as much as they want. And so, because what you end up having is a guy who has 10 properties, and he's throwing 50 banners on every property, like maximizing so every banner like fits on there, like and so I think that makes sense to make sure it's limited that way, that people are going to be getting a good ROI on this, so they can feel confident in investing in this NFT that's limited, and being able to control that supply I think is important as well. And that's what we see in real world advertising for billboards too. They do have limits on those things. There can only be so many, and they're only going to provide so many permits for them in certain locations. So you're not going to be able to put up 50 on one lot right next to a freeway or highway or something. So I think that makes complete sense.
Yeah, I mean, what's great about this is because the creator is in charge of what they're doing, technically they could put as many billboards as they want or plaster the whole thing with ads, but no one would go into that experience. So it's actually not in their interest to do that. Their interest should always be maximize the user experience, make it a great experience. The monetization is kind of added value, right? You need to create a great experience, attract people, then you can monetize it in a reasonable way. Because we're a tool and they decide, it kind of finds its equilibrium, if you will, because you can't just abuse it. Just people are they're not going to care for it. It's going to leave your experience. So you have to be reasonable. And that's why, this idea that the metaverse could be this dystopian future with ads everywhere, like we don't see that possible, because, that means that the metaverse wouldn't have a future if that was the case. Like, why would you spend time in a world where you only have ads? Then I'd rather just not be there at all, right? So obviously creators are not going to do that if they want to grow their experience. And this is why, we don't think that this is a reasonable concern.
Yeah, no,
which is different from Web 2, because Web 2, the platforms enforce that. Right. And so, YouTube, they can put as many ads as they want because they're not the creators. And if the creator's not happy, they can go somewhere else. And there's not really another place. So, that centralization is the problem. But in Web 3, because the creators have the power, then, suddenly the power comes back to the creators, and therefore maximize the experience for the users.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're really working towards here in NFT gaming in particular, and blockchain, is really finding the best experience for the end user, cutting out the middleman, making it easy to be able to do these types of things and create great experiences. And you're right, oversaturation is, nobody really wants that. Everyone wants something to we're, at this point we're kind of, I wouldn't say fighting for it, but there's not as many people jumping into these metaverses, so there's a limited amount of people who are going to get exposure to these things at this point, and it's definitely growing. And so I think you guys have situated your company in a really good position right now to be able to grow with this industry, and as more projects want to come online and do this. Now you guys have announced this big Somnium Space partnership, and then the newest here one here with kind of like physical billboards as well. Do you guys have your targets on any other places, maybe like a Decentraland or a Sandbox? These are all some of the big ones. Have you talked to those guys?
We're building partnerships with a lot of the big virtual worlds, the big platforms, and we're building a solution for them, which would basically be an API so that you don't need to integrate the SDK. Everything can be embedded within their dashboard, and they can show the results and how much money the creators have generated. And generally, the whole billboard thing is really a proof of concept. What we're doing here is not purely advertising. It's really about finding a gateway, finding the right infrastructure for brands to be involved in this new world and create a new revenue stream for the creators. It doesn't have to be ads. It could be sponsorship, or it could be influencer marketing. There's many ways that brands can be involved. It's not just about placing ads, but that is the low-hanging fruit. That is what brands know today. And so, we have to go one step at a time, but we're certainly working on even more exciting stuff.
It's a good point of entry. And I think that's what I'm saying. I think that you've positioned yourself really well with that, and, kind of making it future-proof. And making an easy transition for these brands to understand and see, here's where we're kind of going, and then that gets them interested and gets them embroiled in the whole metaverse and blockchain in general. And once they've dipped their toes in, we know that for sure that they're going to keep on going. That, I think that's really is. You got it. You get them hooked in, and you're like, all right, we got you, let's do this, and it works out pretty well. So we've seen that here. All right, great. Hey, thank you so much, Sam, for joining us here today. Before we get going, any last little nuggets of goodness you want to drop here on the community? Anything that we should know about before we go?
I think you guys definitely should check that drop if you're a landowner in Somnium, or even in other virtual worlds, actually, because what we've announced is that even though those NFTs were built with Somnium, they will actually be interoperable. That's kind of the point. So when we support other platforms, you'll be able to bring those NFTs and start monetizing your land in using a new revenue stream, which is brands. So I look forward to see cool integrations, and hopefully you guys making lots of money with advertising revenue.
There you go, guys. Get that passive income. Get those billboards. They're coming here soon to all your favorite metaverses. You heard it from Sam. Boom. Well, hey, thank you so much again, Sam, for joining us here. I really enjoyed hearing about Admix, man. Yeah, really appreciate it. And but I think that's all we have for today, folks. Till next time, stash that crypto, friends.